You know what's funny about starting a business? Everyone's got an advice about what you should do, but no one tells you what you should not. And if you're sitting at your desk dreaming about quitting your job because you hate it, this episode is for you.
Hey guys, welcome back to yet another episode of the B&B Podcast. And today is an interesting topic, and that's why we have Neil back as well after a long time, because we three individuals have started businesses, and we for sure have learnings about what you shouldn't be doing when starting a business. We're yet to figure out, and that's the whole thing. Branding and Building Podcast is about that what you should be doing, and you get a lot of substance about what you should be doing. But in case you've made your mind about quitting your job and you want to jump into starting a business of your own, what you shouldn't be doing from my end, something I truly believe in, what we made, one of the mistakes I made is that I didn't have a clear runway of 12 months to be able to sustain myself. So if you're starting out, make sure that you have a runway of at least 12 months. When I say runway, you should be thinking of sustaining your lifestyle as is, or maybe a bit under your means. But imagine that for first year, maybe two, you won't be making any money. So how you're going to sustain that is something that you have to think. If you haven't figured that out, don't start uh, building a business, or don't take that journey yet, because it's really important to stay out of that. I guess creativity requires you to be in a very freer mind, in a more good space, and if you have to worry about how the bread is going to come, it's a very bad situation to be in. So yeah, that is number one for me. Neil, you want to go next?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So my point is that idea is worth nothing. So if you think that you have $1 million idea, then you should hold on, because execution is everything. And most of the businesses that get started as an idea turns into something completely different by the time they get into execution. So so you shouldn't be protecting your idea or trying to hide it from others and stuff like that. Ideas are nothing.
Yeah.
You should be thinking about the execution, and then jump right into it. So that's my take.
Okay.
One thing you shouldn't do about when you're starting to build a business is validating and pitching your ideas to family, friends. What happens is they want to be nice to you. They don't want to hurt you. That's why they will always give you positive feedback about, oh wow, it's a great idea. And there's also a book on that, The Mom's Test, about how to validate your idea. So what you should rather be doing, on the contrary, is take your idea, talk to strangers, put it out on the internet, and validate it with those strangers in order to know on the direction that you're really moving towards. But don't make the mistake of considering the validation or the nicer things that you receive from your family and friends as a validation, real validation from the world,
Yeah.
to build a business out of it.
Mm. Okay. uh, just to add to that, uh, I guess once you already have a product and when you go to them, I guess they are not going to buy it as well.
Yes.
So your friends and families, when people already say that, something they say you should be doing is that go and validate it with your friends and families, because those are your first customers. Actually they aren't. They are not your first
Yeah.
customers in most cases.
Yes.
They are not. Yeah. So uh, the next one is for me is mostly related to sales and marketing. So if you're not willing to learn sales, so how to close, if you're not willing to learn marketing, and if you're not willing to build audience, like if you're not figuring out distribution, and if you have no interest, don't start building a business or a product yet, because in today's world, I guess building an audience is a business itself. You have figured that out, products will come easy. As Neil said, ideas are easy. Once you have distribution figured out, I guess you can keep pushing whatever you want. They'll pick, they'll reject, they'll pick, they'll reject. So yeah, I guess that is one of the most important things in today's business environments, that you got to figure out social media. Yeah.
The next one for me is, again, going back to the idea phase. Like, you shouldn't be thinking about something completely different, entirely different. Of course, there are very rare breed of entrepreneurs who would visionary enough to come up with something, really uh, visionary in that sense. but most of the time, most of the people who we are surrounded with are regular common people, and they can build a good business if they have a common sense. And that common sense is to just apply what is working for others in your own business. It could be a simple small differentiator, or whatever what we used to call in our earlier episodes as incremental improvement in any of the existing services. So that's what my take is. Like, don't go ahead, go with something entirely different. Just try with something that you see is lacking, and you can improve on those kind of services. Then you can keep that as a starting point. So that's my take.
While we've already talked about validating the idea, building an audience, or having a runway for that matter, one thing that I have learned one shouldn't do is trying to perfect everything before launching or even validating for that matter, that I need to get these things done and only then I'll be able to launch. But rather thinking of them as a smaller experiments, trying to have smaller metrics for you to start with, rather than having a bigger goal which is very ambitious and not realistic in the present. So have smaller goals, experiment through and try to validate those as much as possible, putting your work out there, letting yourself get the feedback from the real world rather than trying to perfect it and then pushing your work out.
I think speed and velocity is
Yes.
very important. So absolutely, great point.
And the most important and the most relevant in today's context is that, as Naval said, yeah, we are all going to eventually move towards individual walking businesses,
Yeah.
and that's the style now, right? So uh, you would want to have that freedom. You want to be your own boss, uh, and it's a nice thing. But if you're doing it just for style, or just to be cool and having a fancy co-founder or a founder tag on your LinkedIn profiles, I guess you shouldn't be doing it, because very rarely you would see people starting businesses and exiting in 3 to 5 years. In general, the game of entrepreneurship is at least a decade long. Uh, it is not before 10 years you'll start seeing some real money. I'm not saying that you won't have a successful business or you won't be making profits, but your expectations of actual making money, uh, well, that's not going to happen in 2 to 3 years. It's a very long term game. I like it's 5, 10, 15 years. That's the norm actually. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Basically, I feel the same. It Building a business is about building a brand as such, and when you're trying to build a brand on a larger scale, if we compare, like, for example, somebody with 15k, sorry, 50k or 100k subscribers or followers would go out in the street and feel like, so everybody knows me. Then probably it may work in the smaller city where, the most of the subscribers are there. But as soon as they step out into any other city,
Hmm.
they will feel that not everyone knows them, right?
Yeah.
So when you're saying real money or the real brand, uh, is for example, Apple.
Hmm.
Wherever in the world you go and mention Apple, nobody will come up with a thought that, Apple is like that apple fruit.
Yeah.
They will
Yeah.
always link it with the Apple brand. So that's
Yeah.
brand building. They came a long way
Yeah.
to reach to this level where, they are recognizable. So I feel again like it's a long term game. If you just wanna make quick money, it's not something that, of course, sometimes it may happen, because if you are just, going into that upstream where everything is really trendy, and you may make some quick money,
Yeah.
but it's not going to be enough, or it wouldn't be on a larger scale, it wouldn't make sense. So
Hmm. Hmm.
absolutely, that's what I think about this.
Yeah.
As much as both of you have already covered a lot of ground on this part, what I also believe is while you're building a business or a venture, not out of style or just because it's trendy, you also need to not compare your metrics for building a business with someone else, because you might want to understand why you want to create a business, whether it's purely for financial freedom. Yes, you create a business, to be very honest, to be financially free. With it also comes the freedom of time, with it comes also the impact you want to have through your business. So those metrics is it's really important for you to understand that, and not directly compare and measure your success, whether it's short term or long term, in only financial aspects. Because if we only start saying the success in financial aspects only, you might want to practice delayed gratification in that aspect and not have instant validation. Because if you do so, your courage and your strength is only going to be um, impacted on a longer run, and you don't want that to happen. So your resilience, your courage, your grit, and understanding of why you want to create a business is absolutely important when you're actually thinking of even creating one before leaving a job.
Absolutely. And on that note, I also feel that, as I always say, like, business is something that you can do better if you know within.
Yes.
So it will always give you more clarity
Yeah.
about yourself. So you get clarity in business, you get clarity on your own end
Yeah.
as well. If you mess up something in the business, again, you'll learn something about yourself. So I
Absolutely.
think it is very related.
Yeah,
In
that's
that
something I
sense.
learned very early on the podcast itself,
Yeah.
of going inside out approach, because it also works the other way around. The more you know yourself, the more you start understanding what you want to do uh, for your business or through your business. So a business what or a venture is just a medium through which we are going to do some work, some sort of work.
Yeah.
And the outcome of that is going to be impact to the lives, making it better, more productive, so for example, or having financial gain, or giving employment to your team. So no matter what, but having that sort of clarity is absolutely necessary, at least when you start. You don't need to know your why, but having that sort of clarity, that why do you want to start in the first place, will help you to stay on the ground for a longer period of time.
Absolutely.
uh, and something that I would want to add with, like, you already covered a lot of ground, you guys, but one thing that recently I came across was, I was reading Dan Coe's article. That guy is fucking crazy as well. And I've been obsessing about value. One thing that we didn't talk about is understanding the unit of value. Businesses are mostly, value is where the trade starts, right? People pay in exchange of something. What is that exchange? And that exchange is the unit of value. Because with business, you can't say that I've been putting 120 hours a week, or in 2 weeks or a month, that literally translates into your income or profits or revenue in business. That's not how it works. It depends on what is the mere exchange, what is the single unit of trade based on which your business stands. So understanding what is that unit of value is going to be very important. And most importantly, it can only be communicated. So uh, most of businesses, like, if you experience physical products, of course, well and good, but if you're into the digital game, value is mostly on a very subconscious level. It's something that is an experiential thing. It requires emotional labor. It's not like a direct math to uh, to the concept of value. So yeah, understanding value, and that will take time, and that's why business is a long term game, right? So initially it's just mostly exchange of hours or trading of a directly monetizable skill. But over time, when you start seeing profits, it's because of compounding of that value, because you've managed to communicate it properly. So, yeah, so that that is something that I learned recently. Now let's see how we apply it. But yeah, any closing thoughts?
Yeah, I think I might have one.
Yeah.
We also start a business thinking that we want the freedom of time and be more free and have a lot of time doing the things that we want to do. One thing I've recently learned is, in order for you to find what you're really good at and where you can have the most leverage, putting in less amount of work and having more impact, that takes a lot of work initially. So you have to put in a lot of work initially to find those skills, to find that area of interest or your expertise, in order to eventually in the compounding start giving yourself or allowing yourself to have more time. So if you're jumping into it thinking that, oh, I am going to create a business and I'm going to get a lot of time, free time for myself immediately, don't do it, because
It will
that's
not
not
happen.
how it's how it work.
Absolutely. Very interesting, I think. Yeah.
Interesting conversation.
Yeah.
You want to close?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think there are a lot of don'ts
Yes.
left, but I think this
These
one
are the
makes
most
us
important ones.
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
at least it's like a screening for yourself, right? So maybe I don't know, it didn't come, but yeah, it's the screening for yourself. There's a lot more. Of course, there are a lot more don'ts, but yeah, these are the most crucial ones, I think.
Yeah.
And these are the things that we have been doing.
First hand
Yeah,
experienced.
first hand
Yeah.
experience, been doing wrong as well. One thing that we missed, just one thing, is that don't do it if you don't know your industry.
Ah,
One of the biggest one was that for us. Just before we are closing it, we started design expansion lab. We understood design, but we didn't know the industry. And one of the reasons uh, we are into the system now, figuring out what are the you know exchanges, how is the supply chain of digital product design stacked, and what are your chunks of monetizable areas or skills. So yeah, if you don't know the industry, don't do it.
very challenging to.
Yeah, very challenging.
You'll have to go in and figure out everything
Yeah,
first, and then maybe it might work.
yeah, it might work.
And you may feel like it's working, but at the end of the day, a lot of businesses also fail at in midterm.
Hmm.
So if the economics are not right, you'll
Yeah,
probably fail. So there are a lot of course,
yeah,
there are a lot of things to
yeah.
consider.
I guess that's also a term called ginger growth. So you don't know why you're growing. You're growing
Hmm.
from all areas all of a sudden, and then
Yeah.
it stops.
Yeah.
And when you start digging further, you realize that we seriously don't know how we are growing or how we are making money.
Yep.
That is where it goes wrong. Like when you said, after
Yeah.
some point, businesses reach that point, like us, and a phase. It's also referred to as a messy middle in our lives.
Yeah.
This is similar is a business. So yeah. I guess yeah, that should be all from
Yeah.
what you shouldn't be doing. And if you liked it, well, share it with people who might be on the verge of starting something absurdly stupid. But anyways, have a good one, and that's all from the BNB podcast family. Cheers. Have a good one, guys.
Cheers.